Hey, everybody, I hope you're doing well, wherever you may be in the world and that you're having a great week. So today we're going to do a little live stream. Don't have too much time, but hopefully there'll be enough time to go through some of the latest stuff that I've been working on. So there's been quite a bit that I've changed around and I've added since the last live stream. One of those things is now we have drag and drop working. So if we look here, so we have a playlist now that's an XML file. So I think we had that in the last live stream that we did. And now we have that playlist that's being reflected on a playlist view that we have inside of this this table list box component, I believe it's called. And the cool thing is that now I can actually take this and I can drag it up here, drop it, and it actually lists the file, which is pretty cool. And then so yeah, so basically drag and drop is now working, which is really awesome. So that's there. That doesn't have any metadata in it just yet, but it'll play. So there we go. Then I can drag another track. Oh, so it looks like I got a crash. So let's see what that's about. Source. So yeah, so it looks like I need to do something that just locks everything while I'm waiting for the new data to load. I can see why that would crash, because basically you're trying to read some audio, and then as you're reading the audio, it's trying to load a different audio file into the same buffer. So that needs to be corrected, which is awesome. Another thing that we can correct here is that we see that when I load new tracks, it doesn't check for duplicates in the playlist. So that's another area where we can refine the behavior of this. But I just wanted to get it working in the most basic scenario to start off. So another change that I've made is that the XML file itself used to be stored in just a source of resources folder that I had in the project. So I've now changed this and I've put this in the user music folder now. So if we go to my Finder, and let me just go to my user folder. So here I am in my music folder, and in here we have this folder that I've called Tap DJ App. You click in and there's the XML. So we can just test out the functionality of all this. So if I delete the XML, okay, so if I delete the XML, and now I've rebuilt the app, and we see here that it creates a new XML, right? So you do that, and I'll show you where that is. So I think that could be helpful for some people. So if we go to, so I have this class that I've called Toolbar, and I've just put this. I'll put this at the top for now, but maybe later on I'll put this towards the bottom. But essentially it consists of two buttons at the moment. We have settings, where we click that and we now have our audio settings, what sound card that we're on and so on. That's our audio device manager. And then if I could click out of that, and then if I click add tracks, now what I can do is I can select a directory where I can add tracks. So if you can see that, it may be a little bit difficult to see, but there are actually 3 tracks that I can add there. And then it'll scan a directory for those tracks, for any tracks in that directory, and it will add them. So it's just added 3 tracks to my playlist. So, you know, just getting around some of the things that I needed to do for that. So let me go and take you to that place. So in Toolbar, so we have this track add view that what we're doing is we have this, so this is where we actually click on the button itself and defines what happens when we actually add tracks to, when we actually want to add tracks. Then that goes into another class called XML playlist. So if I click into that, and now we can see what what happens here. So so this is a little bit of just some things to define, just to define this this behavior here. So if I just take and delete this folder out of here, when we rebuild again, then we see that the folder now appears again. So it creates another folder, and then inside of that, it creates the XML called playlist. Okay, so whenever we're doing anything to that XML file, we're always going back and just ensuring that that we check for the folder, make sure the folder exists. If it doesn't exist, we create another folder. And then if we need to create a new XML, then we create that as well. Also, we add some preliminary header data as well to that XML. So we have this metadata like title, artist, path, so on. And we can see that if we open up this XML, that right here we have the data that defines our different attributes for our songs. Right, so this may seem a little bit dry for some people because it's not specifically DSP, but I think there are a lot of parts of audio apps that are really more about this: how you pass data around, how you do things like saving state and loading state, things like that. So so now we see this XML. We see that it doesn't have any type of any music tracks in it. So then if we go down here to this add tracks function, then we can see that what we could do is basically we're going through this directory, we're looking for any MP3 or wave tracks, and then what we're doing is we're looking through the metadata using our third-party metadata library, and we're scanning the header file of each of those audio files, and we're using those to populate our XML. So just to give you a demonstration of what that looks like. So we do this. So now I hit this add tracks. We have 3 tracks in here, and I will hit open, and we see that the playlist is now populated with those tracks. And we see that if we look in the XML file, then we now have 3 audio files that have now populated. So to dig into that a little bit further, what I've done is I've made the playlist a change listener to when I add tracks. So I have this, what I've just defined as a track add state. And for now, this is I've just done a little bit of a hack here. So you can see that I've written myself a note that says to do state should not reside in a view. So there's a way that I'd like to improve on this code. And then the way that I handle this at the moment is, and also I think that all of this behavior is a little bit more data centric rather than stuff that should necessarily happen within a view. So I'm going to pull this out to its own independent class. And we can see that once we add the tracks from a directory, that now we do this track add state, just added tracks. And then what that does is it sends a change message over to our playlist. So if we go back over to our playlist, then we see that our playlist is a change listener. And what we're doing is we're passing in this the state of our track, and we add it as a listen. So we're adding the playlist as a listener to what's happening when we add tracks. And then once we do that, what we can do is we can add I've added this callback that says, okay, so when you hear a change, when you've got a change that's being called from the place where we're adding the tracks, then what we could do is we can load the data from the XML. So it's reading from the same place. It's reading from that XML file. And so there are some various improvements that I can make on this model. So, one simple improvement that we could do right here is we see that when we initialize the application, that there's no data in here. There's no playlist. So one thing that I'd like to do is I would like for it to read the XML from the playlist and put any tracks into the playlist. So let's see if we can just do that right now. So let's see if we can just I will just call load data, and then here we will call this to the playlist file. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I want to make sure that when I'm trying to load this data, well, I might already have the check in here. So I do have a check in here that makes sure that the data is actually valid data. But I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it again here. Just make sure that. Yeah, so maybe let's see. So does that mean that I need to have this check here or in both places? Because or I might just do a else JAssert false. All right, so what this does is this just makes sure that the playlist file actually exists before we try to load it. So now the question becomes, does we need to make sure that if we delete the playlist file, that we don't run into this. So we need to see when the XML is actually created, and ensure that the XML is created before we try to load the playlist. So, so let's just have a look at when that happens. So if we go back to the main component, let's take a look. So we have this toolbar. So now we just want to take a look and see when does the playlist actually happen. So we need some sort of initialization data that assesses, that takes a look and sees, do we have the playlist folder and do we have the XML inside the playlist, and if not, to create it. So currently that's happening in the toolbar. All right, so if we look at our toolbar, I believe that's happening in the toolbar. So it's not happening in the toolbar. So we have this track add view. And so let's go back to XML playlist. I'm just looking for when this actually gets created here. So we have this XML playlist, but there's a function that I created in one of my classes that actually ensures that the folder is created, and if not, then we want to create it. So just looking for where I've actually put that. So it's not there in settings view. It's not in toolbar. So it would be here in playlist. So we got XML playlist. And when this is initialized, it checks for the folder and playlist. So this should probably be, to me, I feel like this should probably be one of the first things that happens when your application, when our DJ app is initialized, is checking for the folder and playlist, because we don't want to try to access data that's in that XML unless we're sure that it exists. Okay, so so we have this in, so at this particular point, we're creating this inside the, what we call the track add view, which is just this, I'm going to show you what this is. So this is essentially here in this button that says add tracks. So that's the add track view. So I don't really like it there. I feel like it needs to go in a place that's a little bit more centralized. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now, so there are a couple, so there are a couple things that I'm thinking. I'm thinking for now, I might pass this into this track add view, but I'm also on the side of my mind thinking, you know, this goes back to data. It's data. You know, do I want data going into this display, like into this juice component like this, or do I want to separate it a little bit more? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it in for now, and then I'm going to just get it working, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. So I'm going to I'm going to pass in this XML playlist. And I'll just call this XML. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this now a reference rather than just creating one here as a class member. So now what I need to do is I need to say, okay, this little constructor argument that I'm passing in, we need to now initialize it, or just essentially pass the reference. So reference is a little bit like a pointer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the copy constructor of this to basically point to back to the original XML playlist that we're going to create. And we're going to actually create that in our main component. So now what's going to happen is that I'm going to go back to track add view. I'm going to copy this line of code. I'm going to put this here in our main folder, because I feel like this needs to be central. And we're going to create that here. And then now what you're going to see is that we're going to try to build it, and it's not going to work. So now we're having a situation where we have a situation where our track add view is actually not being initialized here in the main component. So this is a very common situation. I can't really show it right now because it's not building, but what I mean, but essentially what you have is a hierarchy where the main component is holding the toolbar, and then the toolbar contains the track add view. So what this means is that I need to pass this in. I need to pass this down through the toolbar into the track add view. So the way that we need to do that is that now that we've made track add view created a constructor argument where we can pass in this XML, I need to be able to pass it through the toolbar. So there are a couple things there as well. So first thing is that we first have to add the header to the class that I'm wanting to pass in, which is XML playlist. So I'm going to go back to my toolbar. I'm going to pass in XML playlist. And now, oops, it's in the wrong, so let's see, dot. There we go. Playlist. So here we go, just getting back to read from the right source file. So now I'm going to pass in two arguments. I'm going to pass in the audio device manager and XML playlist. This is going to be reference. So this is a reference back to the original XML playlist that I'm going to create in the main component. And then you're going to see what I'm going to do here. So now we have these two arguments in our toolbar, and I just need to copy this over here. And now you're going to see that I'm going to try to build it, and it's still not going to work. And we see that we have a error here that says constructor for toolbar must explicitly initialize the member track add view, which does not have a default constructor. That's what that's going to say at the end. So what that means is that if we go back, it goes back to when I created the track add view. Once again, I'm trying to pass in this XML playlist object, and we see that when we've initialized the track add view, that we haven't passed in the XML. So what I need to do here is I need to do track add view and then pass in the XML. So essentially it's like connecting wires down, all the way down from your main component. So to trace it back, I have the XML playlist that I'm initializing here. And then what I'm doing is now we see that we have the toolbar that we've created and we have a device manager. And now we see that we have the error no matching constructor for initialization of toolbar. And that's because what I need to do is I need to pass in this XML playlist, right? So toolbar, so just once again, from the beginning, XML playlist is created in the main component. Then I'm passing it in through the toolbar. So through the toolbar class, which is here. Okay, passing it in through there, and then wiring it into the track add view here, like that. And see, there's my track add view class. So this is a very common this is a very common thing, just thinking about how to pass data around through classes and get them to, especially when you have a component that you have one parent component that contains another child component, just taking those and passing those through. And then just going back to the original reason that I've decided to do this, which is that XML playlist was being initialized in track add in the track add view, the button for adding tracks, but it's something that's a little bit more essential to our application. And we want this to be one of the first things that happens when we create when we initialize our application. So now if we go into the XML playlist and see what happens, see that just on creation, so when this XML playlist gets created, it's going to call this check for user folder and playlist. Okay, so if you take a look at what check for user folder and playlist does, it confirms that the folder exists. So it's basically saying it doesn't exist, create it, otherwise return the folder that exists. Same thing with the XML file. So once again, if our playlist file does not exist as a file yet, create new XML, which means, and then that calls add header data. So now what we should be able to see is essentially to test this out. And we can see now that this successfully loads the files that are the data that's in the XML file now. But so what I could do is I can now close this out. So let's first just take a look. Let's just delete the XML, see if it regenerates an XML. So I'm just going to put this folder here like this. So when I build it, it should generate a new XML when we do this. And we see that it does, even though we get some sort of strange. So let's see. Okay, so I just need to look that. I think I may have a thread race conditioning happening here. So let me just try that again. Actually, let me just delete this. So this is a good one because yes, that's great. So what we see here is we see that we're having a problem because what may be happening is that our playlist may not be finished creating before we're trying to do something else with it. In this case, it's loading data. So we see here that we have bad read access. So basically, we're trying to read into a piece of memory that that doesn't exist yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through this stack trace, and we see that there is this there's this function load data, which is the function that loads the data into our playlist view. So it's reading through the XML, and it's looking for child elements. Actually, this is actually a different problem than what I thought. Let's actually look here. So we've got get num child elements. Let's see what that actually does. So returns first child element dot size. Okay, so let's go back to track. So we see that at this point, so we see what the problem, so we see one thing that's a problem, right? So we see that track list at this current time is null. Okay, so we could say, so I'm just looking for, I'm wondering, I'm starting to think that I want this actually down here after it's added all of this header information. So let's try that first. Rebuilding. Okay, so we hit the same thing. Okay, so track list is an XML element pointer of track list. So we could say if track list not equal to null pointer, let's just take a look here. So let's see if this works now. So I'm just going to step through this now. Okay. So all of this is good. So this is adding all the tracks. And then here we go. Okay, so it looks like we are, let's see what happens now. Okay. So track list. Yeah, so what we need to do is make sure that so now what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have this child element before we try to access it. Okay, so okay, so it would be something like So we could go through, make sure that it has that that element first. Well, let's go back for a second here, because I just so what it's trying to do is it's trying to get this library before not knowing if it actually has that element inside or not. Because see, we have this XML playlist, but it doesn't currently have any library data in it. So we need to check and see if it actually has a child called library or not. So okay, so let's go back to the JUCE documentation now. So we go to the JUCE documentation. So I've done something like this down here where we get the child iterator. So I could do something like if auto pointer element in XML get child. This is I get it. Sorry. So this is, I need to do this on XML data. If XML data, sorry, auto pointer elements in XML data get child. Here. So that is unique pointer. That gives us a unique pointer to an XML element. So go to here, XML elements. I think it's called child iterator. Get child iterator. So why is that not? Get child. Why is that not working? This gives us a unique pointer of XML data. Get child iterator. don't understand why it's not doing that. I'm just going to leave. Just going to see if why this is not compiling. Variable declaration. Just trying to get an idea of what is seeing XML data as. Okay. Oh, no, that works. So for auto elements in XML data, get child. Why is that? Maybe I had something wrong. Okay. So let's see here. So now we want to go through the elements and see if there's an element in there called library. So let's put this before this. So let's do so this is going to return back an XML element. So if element has tag name, maybe. How did I do this when I did? Spent a lot of time on this yesterday. Where is it? Trying to remember what class I was using, because I have a piece of code that I did yesterday that's extremely similar. I think it's in here. Yes. So it'd be something like this. So library, something like get. So sorry, I want this one. Then so we need to make sure it has the header list first as well. So we need to do if element has tag name headers. then I could just take all of. Just making sure I got this right. Then this should be elements. Then list box. Okay, so we got that. So this needs to go here. Now. Get rid of this. And then I can get rid of this because that's checking for the same thing. Okay, I think I got it now. Okay, let's try now. Okay, so track list. Oh, but we don't need it to have. We don't need it to have that because if it doesn't have. If it doesn't have a library, then it's not going to have a track list yet. So that's fine. Okay, so now I'm just going to. I see that there are a couple places where we just have some of the same strings. So I'm just going to do that juice string header element. Right. Or should I call it library? Lib element. Library. There we go. So I think it's quite easy to mess up a string. It's a little bit, I think it's a little bit safer to just put it in a local variable and do it like that. It just looks a little bit easier to read for me as well. Okay, did I do that all right? Okay, so let's see how we're looking now. Okay, so we got that. Build succeeded. So let's see if our XML currently has any data in it. And we currently see that it does not have a library. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add some tracks to it. So we will do add tracks. I'm going to add tracks from this desktop directory. Okay, and so now we see that we have another problem here. So this is coming from so let's go back to the JSert here. So what's our column ID? So column ID is 1. Which is 5. Cannot have a 0 ID. Yeah, but it's not 0, it's 1. Let's see here. Ah, this is why. This needs to be header list. But hold on, if it has this already, then it doesn't need to have. If it already has it, then it doesn't need to have it again. Right? Right, so it'll probably add it again if I do this. It'll probably add it twice. Let's just see what happens. Oh. Yeah, I thought that was going to fix it. Okay. Let's think about this a little bit more. So let's see, let's just go back to the beginning, right? Just going to eliminate that XML file. We build it. Everything sort of works fine. So there are no tracks that are loaded in our, there are no tracks that are loaded in our view just yet. Okay. We look at the XML file. We see that we do have header data, which is fine, right? Which is what this is. Okay, so let's just make sure. Just gonna make sure that that's indeed where we're getting that from. Okay. So currently, okay, interesting. So we are generating this header data from somewhere else. Okay, so let's look at where that's coming from before we do anything else. Okay, so I'm going to delete this again, go back, I'm going to take away this breakpoint. Now I'm going to go back to main. And let's see, so we want to go into when this calls the constructor. Set a breakpoint there. So just going to call it here. So we will step over. Okay, so it looks for that folder. Get child file. All right. So at this point, we still have no XML. Now we step over. So now I'm going to let's step over. Will that step into it or will it? So yeah, so let's check in there. So now we're calling that. That's calling user folder exists. All right, so check for user folder. So now we're going to step into here. And then it's going to say if user folder doesn't exist, create directory. So that directory is this tap dj app. Okay, so that's fine. So we can step over this. Return user folder is directory. So now user folder exists when we step to the next. When we do to the next step, should be true. Right. So now this is true. That's fine. Then we got this next conditional. If the playlist file does not exist as file, so that does not exist as a file. So now we should go into create new XML. Great. Create new XML. Now that calls add header data. So so this is good because what we can see is that through my travels as I've been writing code, we see that it appears that there are two places where I'm actually creating header data, right? So I guess that's something that would be a common thing that, common mistake. So where am I looking for this? In playlist view? I remember so we see, yes, so but this is not for the XML. This is for the actual list box. Okay, cool. So that's fine. So let's just step through this. So adds all of our header data, writes it to the playlist file. So now that should return as true. And then all of this should return as true. Okay, great. So now let's go back to our playlist view. Okay, and now look through what happens here. Okay. So what would be awesome is if you could do like a step back. So go back a step. That'd be cool if that was possible. So this should be fine. So that's created our tracks, or that's looked at our XML. We have this. We don't have any tracks. So this is where the problem is coming in, because now we want to add tracks here. What have I done to break this? Okay, so once again, we want to add tracks here. Now, let's see what's happening. So I am creating a unique pointer of XML data. Out of here. So let's see. So there's not much in here. There we go. So tag name, text. So this is the headers. Right, and then tag name, and then we have table data. Okay, so now let's see what's happening. So we have this, so those are just strings. Now we're going through each element in this in the XML data sheet. So we have this XML. It's added the library, it's added this now. So it's added the tracks. Let's see why this is not working. So if it has the tag name header element, so now we are in header element. So then now I'm going to step over this so this initializes. So tag name is headers. And then now for all columns, for each column in the header list, let's see what we have here. So we do have title, artist, path. Right, but this, okay, so I see a problem. Or I see something that I want to change anyway, which is that I want the header data to show up as soon as I load the application. Okay, so let me just make sure that. I'm just gonna press through. Oh, sorry, it has, I need to get rid of the XML. Let me go back here, delete this again. Close that. All right. Because no, it does add this the first time around. Okay, so I want this to initialize like that. Okay, I don't need that to happen every time that I load data. So let's see. Yeah, but so just thinking here. So if it's already got this, then I don't need to do it again. So once it's done it. So if it already has an if it already has these columns, then I don't need to add them again. So it's almost like if it has a header element, then I don't want to do this. Okay, so what we need to do is this. Let's go back here, because this is what I don't. Let's go back to the first time that we're actually doing this. Yeah, so this. So it has that there. Yeah, and then we need to check the list box. So let's go to list box here for a second. So this would be list box. Table, so this is table list box. Table list box. Get header, which returns a table header component. So let's see here. So it goes back up here. So if we have this, so let's see, do we need to check all three? So can we get like number of columns, get num columns? So if so Yeah, so we're going through the header elements. Going through that section in headers. So we need to see if we need to see if the column, if the header column name is already there. So it would be for do I is less than list box get header get columns only count invisible false. I plus plus. So now we want to say check column name. See if it's already in if it's already a column in our header. If not, add it. Right? Those. So if list box get header get column name I is equal to this needs to start with 1. And we need column get string attribute name do. So if it is some, let's see. Go through the list box. First, so you get the first name, you get the first one. So that's artist. You get so now we need to go through each of the column. Each of the columns, right? So we're going through the, so this is actually a little bit backwards. So if, so let me just write this the other way around. So now you get the first column, right? And the first column says column name is column, let's see, column equals artist. Then it looks and it says, get the column name. That is, let's say it is that. Then we would return, right? Because we don't want to do anything if it already has that attribute. So, okay, so that's if. That would be if it's already in our column, right? If our column is already in the list box. Skip over it. Right. Then we got else. Add this column to the list box because it's not listed yet. Okay. Yeah, check column name. See if it's already a column in our header. If not, add it. All right. So let's just check over that one more time. Yeah, but it's just checking the one that's at the, this isn't quite right either. So, because that's just going to compare get column name at that time, at that index. So that's not quite right. So we need to look through all the columns. So let's see, let's put a full is a column, is column equals false. Is already column, is already column. That's false. So here we say is already column is equal to true. Return. So if it is, then we want to say it's already column. Then break out of this. Then it goes to the next column. And then we want to make sure that we get to the end of this. Okay. If is already column is equal to, so now we got, if we've gone through all of these and it's not a column, then we add this. Okay. So is this here? No, this is not here. This goes out here. All right. So now let's go if. So we've checked through all our columns and we haven't added it yet. So we'll make a new column here. So from the start, looking through all of the columns in the header list, creating this new Boolean. Going, so I just want to check through get num columns. I'm not sure if this needs to start with 0 or 1. I'm pretty sure that needs to start with 0. So now we're checking through so we're getting the number of columns. If the string of the name is, now we're just iterating over the column names. If it's a name, if it's already a column, that equals true. Break out of this. Then if not, if we've gone through, then this should not trigger. If it's not a column, by the time we get to the end, we add it as a column. Yeah, that feels like that's right. Okay. We got a comment from Martin. Sup, Martin? Getting there. So a better strategy is to put all the column names into a stood unordered set, and then you can check if the name is in the set when loading the XML, so you don't have loops in loops. Okay, let's take a look at that strategy. So we've got a stood unordered set. Okay, never used this before. Let's take a look. An unordered set is an unordered associative container implemented in a hash table where keys are hashed into indices of a hash table so that the insertion is always randomized. Okay, take constant time, which can go up in the worst case, which depends on the internally used hash function, but they perform well. So let's take a look here. Okay, so we got this unordered set. We insert some strings. Okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I just need to know the okay, let's try that. That seems pretty awesome. So that's a shame because I was pretty proud that I actually was able to get this this checker off the ground. I'm actually curious to see if it's going to work before I start messing around. Before I like tear it all up and try to optimize it. Cool. So now we have our columns. Let's see. Okay. So it's still not quite working. Okay. So JSON column ID can't have a duplicate. Oh. All right. Uh, that's interesting. Okay, so just skipped over that. Looking in here. I want this. Columns. Values. Elements. There's 0 elements in there. But there is. There should be 3. A list box, get header, get num columns. Right. This is going to mess up now. List box. Header. What is this? This is so confusing. Table header component. That's not what I want. Don't need that. Don't need that. Columns. Values. Says that there are 0. Messed up thing is that I had this all working just a minute ago. The problem is that this is like elements inside of elements. So it says that the attribute is column. That's what I don't understand. This column ID. Yeah, then it's just gonna do an assertion. All right, so this is adding the columns. Column ID can't have a duplicate. So the problem is that the column ID is 3. But there's already a 3, I think. That's the problem. Let's go back to this. I have a hunch. Now, man. Add column ID is 3. Marvin says it's less than or equal to get known columns because the IDs start at 1. The number of columns is counted normally. Okay, so we'll call this. So the ID needs to be 1. Yes, I think we all agree that. It works. So let's go back to what so that works. So it's less than or equal to, that's right, because the ID starts at 1. Yeah. And then get the column name, gets the column by the ID, right? Yeah, get info for ID. So it had to start with 1. It had to start with 1, but because it starts with 1, then what you have to do is you have to do less than equal or equal to rather than just less than. Yeah, what an edge case scenario. Well, that works. I'm gonna commit that, and then let's try this other solution that Martin has suggested. So let me go here, get add we will do git commit -m, corrected, corrected library, adding issue, git push -u origin main. Okay, so now that we've done all of that fun stuff, so I'm actually curious. I want to see if it actually does okay and stands up adding new tracks. So let's add tracks from, let's say, let's go to user. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's go back here. So now we have these tracks. Let's go back and let's just test this. Let's just run this through through its paces really quick. Let's first go to the XML document. Let's delete that. So first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to see if we delete the XML, does the XML come back? Does it have the right header information on it, and so on. So here we go. So we see that we have this XML, and great, it has our header information on it. Cool. So now I'm going to delete the entire directory and see if it creates a new directory again. Okay, so here we go. Creates the directory, go inside, creates the XML. The XML has the right information. Fantastic, all good so far. Now we want to, and another piece of good news is that we have our header columns are right. So now we want to add tracks. So now we're adding tracks from this directory. And let's see, so did it add the tracks? So we see that it did add the tracks to the XML. However, it did not add the tracks to the view, to the playlist. Okay, so let's see why it hasn't done that. Okay, so so like this could probably all be its own, should probably all be its own function. Okay, but so now, but we'll hold off on that for now. So the problem is that it is not inside here. So where is it getting element? Oh, no, that's in there. So for all the elements in the child iterator, so Okay, but if I do this and I load it again, the names show up. Okay. Yeah. So let's just go here and let's push through this. So this should be true. Just gonna make this a little bit smaller. Just gonna, okay, so now if it has a tag name, okay, so it says library, so this should be true now. Okay. Track list. Okay, so what are we doing with track list then? Okay, so then the track list is that XML element, and then later on we use that. All right. Yes, so later on we use that to paint our cells, right? So that's fine, but now what happens if we don't have any of this? Okay. So now we don't have any tracks in there. I add tracks. Now it's added them, but it hasn't listed them. Why? Then let me just do this. Okay, so if I do this, still nothing. Okay, so call load data. How do I get it to manually? How do I get it to update though? Because it's supposed to it's supposed to listen for changes. Okay, so let's take a look at what happens differently when. Can I just call? Let me do this. List box repaint. Just try that quickly. Okay, so on initial load, loads fine. If I get rid of the library, save it, close it, add tracks should list these tracks twice. But it does not. Okay. So let me just, yet, if I look at the XML, it should have the tracks. No, interesting. Interesting. It did not list them twice. I thought that it would. Okay. So let's just go back here. Let's just look at all this again. Okay, so we add the tracks. So now this is what I want to see here. And put a breakpoint in there. Hit load data. So now we do this. So step in there. Okay. So it gets it. So it sees that we've created this library, we repaint. Why doesn't it update? Isn't there like an update function or something like that in this box? So let's go back here. Update. Refresh component for row. It's a strange one, but yet if I do this, it shows up. Paint's fine. Just gonna try something here. Just gonna try putting it back to what I had before. Okay, so that shows. Adding again. It doesn't do it. But hold on. Yeah, it did add them. Strange. I'm gonna bring that back to where it was. So it calls, so it does see it. All right, so let me do this. Okay, go back here. I'm going to take this out. Save it. Then we're going to go wait till it goes in here. Okay. So doesn't have anything. So now we're going to call this. So num rows should be 0 at this point. This should change to 3. Yes, so that changes to 3. Okay. Then when I call this again, just gonna add the same tracks again. That should change num rows to 6. So it's 3 currently. Cool. So num rows is updating. Num rows is updating just fine. Question is, why is table list box not repainting? Okay, so let's take a look at what I had before. Let's go to GitHub. Let's confirm all this. Go into here. So let's see, so I want go into here, history. Okay, now I want to go here. So what is this commit? Okay, so I'm just going to commit this for a moment. So git add dot. Try to fix issue with playlist refresh. New origin main. Let's do git checkout. I do that right. Okay, so now we're back to what we had before. Just so. All right, it was really that simple. That was really all it was. Don't know what has changed. It's so strange. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, it's not gonna work now because I've changed things. It's okay now. Yeah. So git checkout main. It's like I literally just had, there's just. Let's get that, get rid of all this. This is literally all I had, and it worked fine. Okay. Oh, now it's gonna, where's my, right here. Okay. Oh, let's do this. Get rid of that as well. Okay, so it doesn't produce anything there now. Of course. Now it doesn't have anything. Let's show that. Oh, I need to get. Need to get all this in there. Yeah. It shows. Why doesn't it, when I add new tracks though, why doesn't it update now? It's weird. Yeah, it doesn't add them. Yeah. Doesn't add them to the view. I mean, it adds them to the XML, but then it doesn't update though. It's like it does something the first time that I load it that it doesn't do subsequent times. This doesn't do anything. So weird. Hmm. Numerous updates. Maybe there's something I'm doing. Load data. Yeah. It does call load data. Maybe if I go into list box and just look at into the table list box, let's look at when it actually repaints. Repaint. Okay, here we go. So update. Didn't realize you can manually call update. Hold on a second here. Oh, but you gotta call update on all. So it's called an update. It's called in table columns changed. Table columns resized. Table column dragging changed. So when are table columns changed? Table columns changed. What is that called? Table columns. It's table header component. I'm a little bit lost on why this is happening. Table header, table columns change. Doesn't really tell you what the heck it is, though. Yeah. Just gonna try to. Right. Looking for something. Set text. Maybe. That never calls. Yeah. Really don't know why that's not working. So that doesn't do anything. Put it like this. Is everything fine? So there's clearly something that's happening in load data that's happening. There's something that's happening when it's initially loaded that's not happening any other time. And I'm just struggling to figure out what the heck it is, because the code that I had before was so simple. So weird that this is happening. Yeah. No. It's not in here. What playlist view? So I had this before, right? Let's go back to the original. Let's go back to the original code that I had. Which was like this. Oh, of course. This is going to be header list. So that was the problem before. Was that we had this situation. Right. Now I'm just trying to do a hack here just to try to get it. Trying to get it into a place here where I can actually. I can actually like just try to figure out the difference between what happened before and what's going on now. Yeah, this goes back to the reason that so now let me go back here. Right. Man. I'm struggling here. Go back to this previous. Dang it. What are you doing? Okay. Just going to copy this, bring this back in, check out. Okay, so let's just pull all this in here. So this is the old code that I had before. But now I'm just going to get rid of this. So this, if I remember correctly, worked fine. So now we have nothing. I add this. Okay, it adds everything just fine there, right? So now that's exactly what I want. Okay. So now I just want this to happen when I initially load it. right? Why is that not happening? Okay. So that's exactly what I want. The question is, why does that not work when if I run it in the constructor? Okay. Let's just let's go back to main. Is it possible that it's because I'm calling this? I think I may know what's wrong. Okay, so could it be that I am calling all of this before it's set up the table and painted it and initialized everything else? I'm trying to load data into columns and rows that may not even exist yet. Okay, so let's now think about that for a second. So now, if I go back to main components, playlist, load. Oh, no, so it's what was this that we were looking? Playlist, load data. XML playlist. Oop. So this needs to be a file. So XML playlist is an XML. All right, so I'm just going to do a hack of this for the moment. This is my hack that I've got residing in a couple classes now. I just need to make it okay. So that loads. Add tracks. Oh, it still doesn't do it. Dang it. Yeah. So this is what led me down the road of so okay, but I'm not giving up here yet. So let's go back because here's the thing. Is that if I reinitialize this, add tracks, no, it triggers. I swear on my life it didn't do that before though. Yeah. I mean, I perfectly understand why it's doing that. You know, so now we go back to what we have here, which is this. So it has to be, so now it has to be this thing where, I mean, that's what caused the problem where now you have all this. Right, so that's what caused, that's what led to that. So now it doesn't break. Okay, so now it adds it. If I add more tracks. Okay, so let me open this up, just add some different tracks here really quick. Nothing there. Add some tracks. Great. So it adds the tracks. Now, if I do this, it should add them again. Okay, but it doesn't. Okay, but let me just go to users, the audio programmer, music, music. I'm trying to remember where I had some stuff. But not like too much, not too many things. Just looking for a place where I have a few. I remember where I actually documents. music. Here we go. Okay, so nothing. Okay, so kind of running back into that same problem again, which is that it's adding the tracks, but it's not reflecting them. Okay, so the first time that you add library, it adds them. All right, is that the assessment of what we've got here? So it appears that you got, so if I do this, it adds them the first time. So if you don't have a library tag, it adds something. But if you have the library tag, it does not add new tracks. So I'm just going to write that down so I don't forget. If I didn't have a library tag, and initialized library the first time, it refreshed. If we already had a library tag, it didn't refresh. Okay, so that's good key information there. Let's see if that's right. So this has oh, hold on. So this is not quite accurate. So there's a library in there, but it's not reading the files. So now let's see what happens. Add tracks, add these, and it adds all of them. Interesting. Okay, I feel like we're getting somewhere now. Big shout out to Jonas, Sam, loving your streams. Thank you very much. Glad that you're here along here with me for the struggle. Okay. Interesting what just happened there. So it had a library tag. So the first time it reads through. So the first time that you add tracks, let's make sure that this is right. So this time we have no library element. But when I add this, it adds it the first time around. Now, if I add this again, I add tracks again, it does not. So that's a flaw there in what's happening. So even if you have the library tag, there's something that happens on the first time that you do load data that does not happen on subsequent times. So let's think about what that is. I mean, the main thing that I see that happens that doesn't end up happening again is that track list. So the first time that this runs, track list gets initialized. Subsequent times that this happens, track list is already initialized. So track list is an XML element. So it's pointing to that same space in memory. Let's so it's being initialized. And it's going to that space in memory. That's an XML element, right? So this first time we are what I don't understand is that the XML, because it sees that it has more child elements. That's what I don't understand. It's something that because num rows changes, right? So update column components. Table columns changed. Table columns. Yeah. When is refresh component for cell called? So it's called. An update. So when is update called? Update. Just gonna try another hack here. Update content. Is that what I'm missing? That tracks. No, that. Let me just pull some of these tracks out. Let's look here. Tracks. Okay, so ads. Yes, finally. I just had to call update content. Okay, now we need to see. Let's go back here. Let's get rid of this. Let's put this in here. Let's go back up here. Let's see if I can put this back up here now. If playlist exists, or should work. Playlist file. Playlist file exists. This file. Playlist file. Oh, This just needs to be load data. Okay. Else. Yes, false. All right, here we go. Yes, loads right the first time. Now here's the ultimate test. Will it add tracks? Documents. Let's go to music. Yes, it loads tracks. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. We did it. We did it. We finally got it done. Okay. Now, let's see. So shall we stretch our luck? So I don't know. I think this is, I'm gonna leave this as it is because I think this you know, and then I'm gonna come back and shall we try to implement unordered map? Let's see. Let's just actually let me do, before I do anything, I'm gonna do a commit. Yes. Do a commit. Git add git commit list working again. Git push -u origin name. Okay. Shall we try to do unordered map together? Unordered set rather. Okay, so the idea around this is that we have some sort of container where we have where we can add some strings. And then what we could do is we can search to see what strings, to see if those have been added or not. Let's see if we can get this going. So stood unordered set unordered set. So this would be type juice string. Now call this elements, element list. Let me just see if that compiles. Okay, great. Then we got, let's take a look here. So I'm trying to think of building this in a way that will be that I don't have to constantly maintain it every time I want to add a new attribute. So what I'm thinking is that the first time that it scans through the columns, through the header elements, that it adds those strings to the element list. So let's do this. So maybe I put going to put it here for now. I think I have to move it out. I'm going to need to move it out of this into a member variable. But let's just get the logic. Let's just get the logic of it going. So element list, what is it, dot add or put, or what's, how do you add? Insert. So this would be column get string attribute name. So let's think about this. The first time that it loads, it will see that it has an element, that it has a header element. Oh, actually, there's a different place where I had the header elements. So let's explore that before we forget about it. So that would be an XML playlist, I believe. Here we go. So this is where we add this vector of so yes, so then we got let me go back here. So we want this to go over here in X. So I'm going to put this here. So what should we call this? We should call this header attribute names, header header attribute list. Okay, then so now we have this stud vector. Or auto I equals 0, I is less than columns size I plus plus. Or I could do it. And then actually I can just set it here. in the same way. Will be header attribute list insert and columns I 0. Then we can get stood unordered set juice string so const juice const stood unordered set of juice type string get header attribute list. This should be const return header attribute list. All right. Now we go back to playlist view. Auto list header list equals XML playlist. Get header attribute list. So let me say header attributes. I'll just do header attributes. Sorry. Just remember to have one of these over. No, I think we're fine. So now we need to check if our, so let's see here. So if column get string let's see, so we got our header attributes. So if element so if the element is already in the list, let's see, I'm going to mark this const auto. So it needs to go Then we go for every column in the head list. If column, see, column, so how do you find it if it's in the list? So, okay, so we've got right. Header list dot find. Find, what can I call cut dot find? Oh, because it's a point. If header attributes dot find column get string attribute name equals string dot equal to header attributes and so let's see. So I'm just putting this down here. That is all ready column equals true. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. String finds find returns and iterator if key is not found. Also returns an iterator to that key. Aha, this is what I need. Um, so see, we got header lists. No. Auto ATR. How can I do this? Header list. I can't do that. So aha, I see. So we need a string iterator. Equals stood unordered set juice string iterator. Or so T equals header list dot begin. Oh, header attributes dot begin. IT is not equal to header attributes dot end. IT plus plus. Let's see how this is very different. Yeah, okay. You can use set count key, set count dot count, unordered set count. Searches the container for elements with the value k and returns numbers of elements found. Okay. So let's go back. Right. Okay, I think I got that. Set that. Okay. Here we go. Let's try this again. Header attributes dot find is greater than 0. Okay. Oh, sorry. Count. Is already column. True. Then I don't need to get I can just eliminate all that. So now I can get rid of this actually. So what do I want to say? What do I want to say here? If header, if it's greater than 0, I could probably just put this in 1. That means I can get rid of this. Well, that cleans it up nicely. Now I'm just gonna, this is 1 line of code, but I'm just going to put this. Then I can get rid of this. Put a little comment in here. We haven't found this all in our header. So that so I think this can go in here now. Just gonna put a comment in here. Let's our attribute. The var column. Headers. And we created. All right, let's see if that works. So, okay, so this goes back to that one. Hmm. Might be. Go back here. So what do we have? It's called column. Hmm. Column, right? Huh. got column. This is what I don't understand. When I try to inspect this, it's just like, I don't get it. A tag name. So this is column, but why? So then if I look at the next listed item, column. First child element is null. Just says column. So let's copy this. Let's go back to what we had before and compare it when it was working. Right. So this is, so let me just paste this here. Just going to comment it out. So this works. Oops. Well, let's try this again. This should work. Right. So this works. Just gonna take some tracks out and just make sure that this actually works. And just do add tracks. These here. Yes. So this definitely works. Okay. Hmm. Aha. Um, out. I did try to do find. Yeah. It's kind of like what I've got. So let me go back here. So I'm just going to do this. All right. Try this again. Find. So why didn't find work? Find should, I like find better than. So. Unordered set juice string honest iterator IT. Equals, got it. Equals my set find. Header is that find. All right, so let's. Oops. Okay, it's not complaining. If IT equals in there. Ah, dang it. That's what happens when you've been coding too long today. All right. There we go. Very close. Yeah, does that work? Some extra thing there. And we need this inside. No, we're good. If we didn't find this column name our columns, to the table header. All right. No, it still doesn't work. Dang it. It's a shame too, because this is so much cleaner than the way that I had it before. Am I actually putting these into the right list? I've got to get going. I've been on here for a long time today. All right. Stood, see out, header, size. Got a semicolon there. Oh, you sucker. No, you're not gonna do anything. No, you're gonna. Ah, I know why. I know exactly why. Because I bet you if I delete this, because I populate it when I create an XML. Now this should work fine. Ooh, it didn't. Oh, it didn't add the. So what's our XML look like then? Right. Okay. Yes, so once it does it once. Got it. Okay, so I'm getting there now. Let me think how this can work then. So it needs to do it the first time. And then after that. After that, we're good. So let's see. So that means that. So now I'm in playlist view on both these. Okay. So this means that this needs to go out of here. I don't need that anymore. Means because this is just the XML, but what I'm talking about is the actual view. So this is why this needs to get out of this class and into the play view. Okay, so I'm going back into playlist view. So the first time we need to so I need to put this in here now. So the first time that this goes through and creates the table, we want it to add so it should look more like header attribute list insert. This. So the first time that it goes through and adds the columns, we need to insert it into our attribute list. Then the subsequent times that it goes through this, it will see that it's in the list already. And we should be fine. So great. So we got our attributes. Now, if we add tracks, documents, music, boom, it adds it. Yes, it works. Cool, learned a new thing today. Fantastic, that was awesome. Yes, that's a good one actually, because I'm going to need to do that for tracks as well when the time comes, because at the moment I'm adding duplicate duplicate tracks. We don't want to do that. So I'm just going to put a little comment here. Add add column name to the list of columns already added, so we don't duplicate it again later. Try to add a column, duplicate column. Yes, learned something new today. That was very good. Thank you very much to Martin for the help as always. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you did too. So I will see you later. I hope everybody's had a great stream, and I'm heading off now. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, baby.